when you go to college, you're going to have to basically choose an area in which you want to study. I'm a bio major, so my main area of study is biology, but I mean, there's basically a variety, and most universities have a huge variety, obviously. Majors usually have concentrations, so as I've said, bio might have nutritional sciences, it might have neurobio, stuff like that. Econ might have maths, stuff like that. Between 1/3 and 1/2 of the classes you'll take will be related to your major. Most students kind of choose majors depending on what grad school they want to go to. If you want to go to medicine, usually you try and go into like bio and chemistry majors. Mine is basically a specialization that requires fewer courses in than a major. It basically complements your study. It doesn't have to be related to your study. For example, I could be minoring in music if I wanted to, just because that's the beauty of the US system. It kind of gives you a wide range of subjects to choose from and stuff like that. Choosing a major. Many students go into university over there without having chosen a major. And that's fine. It's honestly not a problem, because you have 2 years to decide what major you want to choose. And there's plenty of guidance, there's career counselors, there are career centers that'll help you that'll help you choose. And it's also not a problem to change your mind on what major you want to do halfway through college. I have friends who were bio majors, but then switched to English majors at the second year of college. So again, that's not a problem. And I want to ask yourself is, do you really want to study medicine? It's an 8-year process in the States. It requires a lot of discipline, commitment, dedication. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot of things. But I would, if you are dedicated, I would really encourage you to study medicine in the States, because I think it'll really pay off in the end. Based on choosing it's 8 years to obtain an MD, so it's basically 4 years of an undergraduate degree, and I'm doing my 4 years of bio, and then it's 4 years of med school right after. You usually want to choose a major related to science, but it's not necessary. Like, I have friends who were Spanish majors, but kind of went into want to do medicine. As long as you kind of do the med school prerequisites, as I've said, you can basically major in anything you want to. So these are pretty much all the prerequisites, which you do during the first 3 years of school. In order to be a competitive applicant to med schools, you want to kind of do a lot of volunteering service in health-related fields. You want to do a lot of community service. You want to show that you care for people. You want to show med schools that you actually want to help people. You want to do something good for the community. Clinical shadowing. The med schools want to know that you really want to do medicine. They want to know that you're comfortable in doing medicine. So you want to shadow doctors, and preferably you want to shadow them in Sri Lanka, because people see that as a positive thing as opposed to shadowing doctors in the States, because you're doing something global. You've seen disparities of the healthcare system kind of thing. You've seen a wide situations of medicine. In terms of extracurricular activities, it's important to not be only focused on studies in school. You want to join clubs. You want to try and do some sport, even though it's pretty difficult to get into sports teams over there. Building relationships with professors. I think someone talked about this, but I think letters of recommendation are very important. Med schools want to see that you've developed a very good relationship with a professor, and a professor can vouch for you and kind of tell the med school that you're a really good applicant. To get into med school, you got to sit, it's like the SAT, but it's called the MCAT exam. And I believe the new one comes out in 2015, and it's a 6.5-hour test. It tests you on biochemistry, organic chemistry, and a bit of English as well. It requires a lot of studying. I'd say people spend about a year preparing for this exam, and because at the same time you're in school, you've got school subjects to worry about. A strong MCAT score is usually pretty favorable on an application to get into med school. There are plenty of preparatory courses. For example, Kaplan, Barron's, and Princeton Review have their courses, and they can be pricey, but usually I think people enroll in these courses when they need something to keep them going, when they need someone to push them and kind of keep them on top of their work. So, for example, if I wanted to get into med school next September, I would have sat my MCAT this April or this June, just because that's how the application process works. The med school application process, it's a very long process. It's pretty intense, and it usually takes up most of your summer. This summer I've been pretty much working on med school applications, and I haven't really been out of the house as much. I've been writing plenty of essays. It's honestly too much to talk about right here, but there's my email after this, I think, on the slides, and I'll definitely encourage you to email me with questions if you have any. Somewhat of a social life, but it's very limited compared to students, for example, who major in. I think that's pretty much all I have to talk about.
I'm Charita. Welcome. Thank you very much for being here. Hope it's been helpful so far. I guess you got a chance to stretch your legs and all that. So today we are focusing on North America, right? But just to give you, just to put it out there, I did my undergrad here. It was a foreign degree, but I did it here. And I tell people that was cheaper and warmer to do it that way, right? So you can keep that in mind. There are other options. You can do foundation years here. You can do all kinds of things. But all the best with the process. Hope this is helpful. Remember, I hope you saw the URL. It's www.sl2college.org. Anytime you can go there, you can see we have been building up this forum with this knowledge base, basically, of so many questions and the answers to them that has been building up over 6+ years. So you can always go through that. And if you have a specific question, you can always post it. Remember, it's completely free. Nobody is making money off this, so you can be sure that it's completely unbiased, right? Nobody has an interest unless they're cheering for their whole university. It's nothing more than that. When they're trying to give you the answer, our only interest is to make sure that you get the best higher education suited to your needs and your capacity, right? It's a student-to-student thing, and it's just because it's cool to help someone else out. So remember that. We need not be the only resource you look at. We just want to make sure you are well informed about the choices you make for your higher education, whether it's undergrad, postgrad, or anything like that. So remember the website, it's sl2college.org. You can join the Facebook page, the Twitter feed, and all that. Okay, great. So remember, anytime, just go up to anybody here. You can speak to them. You can, on sl2college, you can drop a question. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Just ask it. Look for the answers there already. And because it's a completely new thing for anybody who's going into it, and everybody's very happy to share whatever they know to help you. So all the best. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gabrielle, and I go to Smith College. It's in Massachusetts. It's a liberal arts school. It's an all-girls school. Yay. OK, so anyway, I'm just going to tell you more about liberal arts schools and liberal arts colleges and basically why you should all apply to them. I've realized that in Sri Lanka, there's like a lack of knowledge of what liberal arts schools have to offer. And everyone is sort of clamoring to go to Ivy League schools and go to big universities with names and badges and all of that. But I think they're really narrowing their options by doing that, and they're missing out on on the resources that liberal arts schools have to offer. So hopefully after this presentation, some of you at least would go and look them up, do some research, and it'll probably make a better match for you. Okay, let's look at what exactly is a liberal arts college. So the formal definition, of course, is like an institution that can be defined as one that imparts broad knowledge and developing gender and intellectual capacities, in contrast to sort of like a stringent professional, vocational, or technical curriculum. So what liberal arts schools encourage students to do is sort of to explore a variety of disciplines and to learn and think in different ways and to look at problems and from a different perspective, basically. Not sort of look at things in a very narrow-minded way or just focus on in one field. They want you to explore like all possible options. So you can, when I entered college, you could either be undecided like I was, or you could know exactly what you want to do. So me being undecided, and liberal arts schools, the good thing is you get 2 years to decide like what you want to do. So you can experiment with various classes and then finally come to your decision at the end of 2 years. So what I did was I took psychology, religion, chemistry, English, because I had no idea what I wanted to do. Then I stumbled upon economics, and I decided finally to major in economics in my second year. So it was really helpful to have this sort of curriculum where you can explore and sort of learn different aspects of a certain discipline. So if you're even if you know what you really want to do, you can dive right into it. But I had a friend, for example, she was with me in college, and she wanted to do economics. But then she took this design class that one of my friends had recommended to her, and then she decided to double major in economics and architecture. So that also she wouldn't have known if she didn't have this sort of flexibility. So some prominent examples of liberal arts schools in the US are, say, the little three. They're called Colby, Bates, and Baldwin. Then the little Ivy colleges in New England. These are really, really good schools that are very high, have a very good reputation in the US and in the world. Amherst, Williams, Tufts. Then the Seven Sisters colleges, Smith, Wellesley, Mount Holyoke. These are all girls schools, the Seven Sisters, by the way. And then you have Claremont colleges in Southern California. So when you look at rankings of these colleges, the liberal arts colleges have a separate ranking of their own. You can't lump them into the university, in the big university rankings, because it's like comparing apples and oranges, actually. If you have like the Forbes sort of rankings also, you'll see there's one section for the university rankings and there's another section for liberal arts schools. So don't get like upset if like these liberal arts colleges are not in those rankings, because they have a ranking of their own, because you can't put them together, and you'll know why after this presentation. Basically, I sort of condensed all this information, and I came up with 5 reasons why you should attend a liberal arts college. The first being it's student focused. So liberal arts colleges exist to teach undergraduates and solely undergraduates. This is far different from universities that are designed like chiefly for like faculty research and graduate programs. So like sometimes star professors in these universities, sometimes even Ivy League schools, never even go near the undergraduates. Like everything in these colleges revolves around the undergraduate student. All the resources cater directly to the undergraduate's needs. So it's very student focused in that sense. Secondly, small classes. So at a liberal arts college, you can't go hiding in these like massive lecture halls, because there's no such thing as a huge lecture hall. Like for introductory classes even, maximum you'll have like 40 or 50 students. Like in a university, you'll have hundreds and hundreds of students for introductory classes, and the professor does teach the lecture in these big halls, but when you break up for discussion, it's the teaching assistant most of the time who teach you. So you don't have that one-on-one interaction with the professor, which is really, really advantageous if you could get it. Like liberal arts schools, you get to actually talk to the professor, ask questions, and like have a one-on-one with him, which is really great. Thirdly, you have great grad school preparation. So it's, lots of people say you need to be going to a good, like an Ivy League school, or you need to be in a big state institution if you want to go to a great grad school program. But this is not the case. So as you can see, like liberal arts schools dominate the list of top 10 institutions that produce the most students who ultimately earn doctorates. And secondly, like per capita, liberal arts colleges produce twice as many students who, to earn PhDs in sciences than any other institution. So these are actually really significant. This doesn't come as a surprise, actually, because liberal arts schools provide the sort of research experience that universities only reserve for grad school students. Like, for example, in my first year, I was given the opportunity to do research with a faculty member of my choice. So I chose someone in the economics department, and I basically worked for him. I did research one-on-one with the professor, and he got to know me, how I work, I got to know him. So at the end of the day, he's the one who will be writing my recommendation, right? He knows me really well. So that recommendation's vital for grad school. So it's much better than asking a professor who you don't really know that well, who comes to a lecture and teaches you. If you go up to him and say, would you write me a recommendation? Of course he's going to write you one, but it's going to be generic. It's going to be ordinary. It's not extraordinary like it would be if you had that connection with your professor. So that's a huge advantage that we all have at liberal arts schools. Then employers value liberal arts. Okay, you might think that employers want like these robotic, bionic people who know only that field. But no, that's really changing. They want well-rounded, balanced candidates, and they're looking for people who can think out of the box, think in different angles, and liberal arts education really helps you build the foundation for this kind of thinking. You can approach problems in different ways, and that's really important at the workplace especially. So this might seem really silly, but they say one mission of liberal arts colleges is to teach students to think, talk, and write. You might think all universities do this. But you can go to a university and graduate without writing a single research paper or an essay, because who's going to correct 600 essays, like 20-page essays? No one's going to do that, right? But this small class setting, it helps liberal arts, it compels liberal arts students to actually have to do presentations, do group work, then write essays, write research projects. So what you do is you interact with your classmates, you interact with the professor. So this really helps you work with other people, and you learn communication. The 3 skills you can gain from these kind of activities, like communication skills, analytic skills, teamwork skills. All these are vital in the workplace, and they're all coming to realize that now. So this sort of builds the foundation for that kind of really advantageous to be in a liberal arts college. Lastly, price discounts. I don't know if you saw the financial aid institutions, but Williams was there, Tufts was there. A lot of them were all liberal arts colleges. They give you huge, huge grants. They have huge endowments. They're very generous. And if you take the trouble to apply, they'll definitely give you a good aid package. Because everyone I know who's from Sri Lanka, who's in my school, and in other liberal arts schools have great scholarship packages, and they're really, really generous. So that's another reason, because they don't have to use their money to facilitate research and take care of postgrad students and all. It's all focused on undergrad, and all their resources are for you. So take advantage of that, and do look into liberal arts colleges. They're awesome. Okay, thank you.
I'm Rajinder, and I'm going to talk to you about extracurricular activities. I'm a sophomore at Lafayette College in Pennsylvania, and I'm majoring in chemical engineering, minoring in math. The variety of extracurricular options available in colleges are absolutely endless. If you have a particular interest you'd like to pursue, there's a great chance they already have a club or an organization for it, and in the rare chance that there isn't, you can always start a club of your own. It's not so hard. Colleges in the States really encourage you to, join organizations, whether it be, it could be anything from theater to an a cappella group, sports club, a religious organization, whatever you want to join. Just a couple of clubs that you find for people that are interested in singing. There are obviously, like I said, a cappella groups. You've got dancing groups, drama and theater clubs. In terms of academic groups, there are math clubs, business clubs, investment societies and stuff. You've got engineering societies for different aspects of engineering, like whether it's chemical, electrical, civil, whatever you want to do. For those interested in community service, there are different types of involvement groups. There's Amnesty International groups, people that sort of like to volunteer overseas, places like Africa, Costa Rica, a lot of countries in South America. That's really popular in the States. They encourage you to go down because it's right there. There are also Model United Nations clubs that you can join. For those interested in journalism and magazines, most universities have their own newsletter or newspaper. It's really easy to get involved in, and they sort of give even a freshman the chance to write for it. If you're looking to join a cultural or religious group, there are clubs that cover almost every country, every culture and religion imaginable. There are also clubs that cover hobbies and fun activities like hiking, diving, extreme sports, skiing, whatever you're into. For those interested in pursuing a non-academic activity that is sort of unique to the United States, there are fraternities and sororities, more commonly known as Greek life. Raid will talk to you about the social aspect of this, but I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the organization. Some of you might have seen fraternities and sororities in movies, but slightly different to what's portrayed is actually true. Fraternities are for males and sororities are for females. They are hundreds of years old, and how it works is there's a national organization for each fraternity, and they'll have a chapter in each school. So, for example, it's all Greek letters. So, George W. Bush Sr. and Jr. were both members of DKE, which stands for Delta Kappa Epsilon. Very common fraternity you find in a lot of schools. There are a lot of pros in joining fraternities. See, membership is a lifetime thing. You don't really lose membership after you graduate. So the networking is amazing. You meet a lot of important people, a lot of powerful people in big positions. It's great for jobs, meeting people. You have a great time. A lot of fraternities and sororities have their own housing schemes on campus, like they have their own houses, so you can move out of the dorm and live in the frat house, as it's called. Couple of cons: the only downside of joining a fraternity or sorority is that you sort of have to pay membership, and most of the time it's annual, and there are things like social dues that you have to pay. Apart from that, each sorority or fraternity has an alumni association. So say around at least once a year after graduation, you'll come back to school to meet the rest of your fraternity or sorority and the existing members at the time. To talk to you about sports, I mean, that's another pool of extracurricular activities. I can talk to you about different levels. I'll start with talking to you about varsity sports. As you can imagine, varsity sports are those that compete at intercollegiate level and are extremely competitive. You have to understand getting into a varsity program in any university in the US is extremely tough. There's a lot of extra work that goes into joining a varsity sports team. Like, for example, if you want to be recruited, you sort of have to get in touch with the coaches or fill out an athletic supplement during the application process. Depending on the sport, they might even ask you for things like fitness test. Say if you're interested in rowing, which is called crew in the US, they'll ask you for specific timings and things like that. So there's a lot of extra work that goes into applying to get into a sports team, especially if you're looking at getting recruited. Because how it works in the States is by their last year or the junior year of high school, these kids are recruited and they sign a letter of intent. Since that system doesn't work here in Sri Lanka for those of us who actually want to get recruited from from a different country, we have to go that extra step to show them that we're adequate to join their sports team. Fitness testing is really common. If you want to say run on the track and field team, they're going to ask you for your 100-meter timing or whatever is relevant to the event that you want to take part in. Then there are club sports, which also compete with other schools, but it's not at the same level of competition. Two or three of the most common clubs are rugby, crew, which is rowing, and golf. The thing with that is, in certain schools, the varsity sports differ. Like, for example, at the school I'm at, golf is considered a varsity sport, but in other schools, golf isn't a varsity sport. So when you're looking at the places that you're applying to, you sort of have to go through and see what they have for varsity programs and what are just club sports. Club sports are, they're a great time. You meet a good bunch of people. You will travel out of state. You travel as much as 5 or 6 hours to play other teams, and you will compete with other schools that have that particular sport at club level. So it's a good time. And funding is not as much as playing a varsity sport, because obviously they don't have as much money, but the funding comes from student government and also alumni donations. Finally, there's intramural sports, also known as IM games. These are done at a much lower level, where students can compete against each other by dorm or fraternity. Like, for example, you can randomly take a bunch of friends and enter the intramural basketball competition by just the name of your dorm or whatever you want to enter as. So that's really easy to get involved in. Almost everyone takes part in intramural sports. It's really easy. If you're interested in pursuing a sport at varsity level, you should definitely check out the website. Every university has a different athletics page, and on this you can even compare yourself with athletes. For example, if you want to play football or you want to run track, if you go on the athletics website, you can check what they have as a roster. They've got all the names of the existing athletes, what class year they're in, and sometimes, say, if they're a sprinter, you've got their personal best and season best. So you can compare yourself, see if you can actually fit into this sort of program, if you're good enough to run in that team. You have to understand varsity sports are divided into 3 categories. There's Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3, Division 1 being the most competitive. Getting into a D1 NCAA program is extremely tough, especially depending on the sport. If you want to, say, join a football or basketball program, by football I mean American football, it's extremely competitive. Most of these kids have been scouted by college scouts 2 or 3 years prior to entering college, and it's extremely difficult to get in. Some schools have something called a walk-on trial. Most schools don't have it. But the schools that do, and now it's increasing, what they do is, say, a week or 2 prior to class beginning or a week or 2 after class begins, they have something called a walk-on trial, where you can randomly go for training one day and they'll put you through all the fitness tests or skills tests that they have for that particular event or sport, and you can literally walk on the team. I have many friends who did not get recruited from high school or intend on playing that sport, who went for walk-on trials and got into varsity programs. Very common walk-on trials are for track and field and swimming, because a lot of these kids really aren't sure whether they want to pursue it or not. So they sort of, take a step back while they're applying, but once they go to college and they think, they can handle it or they have the time to go ahead with it, they go on for walk-on trials, and it's very common. any of us can go and try. There's no criteria whatsoever that needs to be filled to try walk on trial.
What's the purpose of the common application when we anyway have the application for each particular school?
So I can answer that because I took on the common application section. The common application has all your information. Most of the schools in the US are on the common application. Some of them aren't, in which case you'll have to send in their application, which can be downloaded from their website.
The London isn't necessarily recognized by my school, and it was just locals. So would that be like just an additional thing? I can't actually make that my main sort of education rather than my local results?
Your main education, unfortunately, would be from your school. However, you can send them an email. Each school, you can send them an email or a letter saying, you concentrated on this other thing that you did outside. It took a lot of your time, and you'd like them to consider that more. And hopefully they will.
You couldn't do the London A-levels at your school, and that's because they didn't operate, right? So that shows them that it's not really you who decided to do this, but you were passionate about doing London A-levels, and you overcame this obstacle because you didn't have the option of doing it at your school. And it shows passion, it shows dedication, it shows willingness to achieve things in life. So I think it's a good thing you did this. But just make sure you tell them the reason, and you can do that via email.
Are they relevant to your grade, to the degree you want to do?
You should probably rank as your highest priority because you want to score really well. But for most colleges, if you're looking at something extremely specific like engineering, then obviously math or physics would definitely be recommended. But other than for that, I really can't see any other subject where you would, or any other major where you would need to take a very specific subject. But definitely what you're good at, that's really what matters.
You need to go to their website and check, because some colleges have specific SAT, SAT2 subject tests that they want you to take, like some require math, and it's a requirement. So make sure for each college you're applying to, go to their websites and check if they require any specific SAT subject test, because if you don't fulfill their requirement, they might not consider your application.
Would the subject range being offered by liberal arts college be different from that of, say, a state or an Ivy League university?
Like, say for example, economics. If you want to be really, really specific, the liberal arts school doesn't dig so deep as like, say, like it's very sort of basic, like general stuff. Like anything you need, it's recognized as a BA in economics, basically. But all the subjects that are offered at any other university, you get at a liberal arts college. But it's not as specific. Like it's not to the T, like little things, but it's very general, and you get a substantial degree of it.
Now we're going to move on to the Canada session. So Oshidi is going to talk about the Canadian application process, and then Anne is going to join us on Skype, and I'll organize that in a second.
Hello everybody, I'm Oshidi Karansekara, and I'll be doing the undergraduate application process for Canada today, and Anne will be joining us from Newfoundland via Skype. And first of all, I'll be doing about applying to university for undergrad. So it basically covers the general requirements, deadlines, timelines, credit transfers, the cost per year, and the other funding opportunities, and entrance to professional programs. So basically, Toronto is a very, very busy city, and it's basically the commercial capital of Canada. And you can see the differences between the University of Toronto and the Memorial University where Anne's from. The student population varies very much, and that's basically one campus of University of Toronto, and it consists of 3 campuses. The competition is very high. It's mainly dominated by Asian students, such as Chinese. I'm not trying to be a racist here, but it's basically really hard to get in. The general requirements are your ordinary levels and the advanced levels. Both London and local are accepted. The minimal is 5 Cs for O levels, but it can vary within universities. And A-levels, you need at least 3 subjects, which might give you, like, it depends on the university again. I got transfer credits for both, for all 3 subjects that I did, except maths, because they don't allow calculators in exams. You'll need to send your transcripts in, but this is usually done by the school or the exam board that does your exam, usually the government or if it's Edexcel or Cambridge exams that you're taking. Reference letters. You at least need 2 academic letters to get in. But the non-academic one depends on whether you want to do extracurricular activities in university itself, because you really don't have the time. I think Raid touched on this because I'm also applying to med school next year, so it's very hard to do extracurricular activities as well. But it looks good on your resume or CV, so it all depends. It's up to you. It's your choice. You actually don't need IELTS or TOEFL if you've done London exams, but if you are doing local exams, you need to do it at least 3 months before your application process. And also there'll be short answer questions and long essays which you need to do in your application. Like they will provide you with a question. For example, I got this question on rats. It's all about bioethics and animal rights. So it depends on the university you are applying to. So deadlines. Deadlines usually differ from colleges to the program you're going in for. So business has about 3 deadlines, and medicine, it's just 1 deadline. So it's basically you can start anytime you want. I actually started in October, and it actually finished in April. So it's up to you. There are no strict deadlines as such. You have to, look out for all the dates and the schedules, and basically you will have to, do everything by yourself, as I did, and then you will get a conditional offer depending on your AS grades. Some universities do actually consider A-level results, so it can be a very tedious process because your exam board has to send in your transcripts to the university again to, and reference letters as well. It's advantageous because the Canadian degree is 4 years, and it can stretch into 5 years if your grades are not that good in your first year. So it's very good if you can get transfer credits. And you don't have to do anything with regard to this because the university will take responsibility to do the necessary things. So the cost per year, it varies according to provinces and states. Usually the University of Toronto is a very research intensive university, so it will affect your pockets. And universities such as the Memorial University will give you grants and scholarships, but it depends on what you want to do and what program you want to go in. Students are automatically considered for scholarships, so it depends on your grades and your reference letters, and special conditions may apply, such as transfer credits. So entrance to professional programs such as medicine, dentistry, and law is very competitive. In order to get into these programs, you have to plan ahead. You need at least 1 year to do this, and you need your introductory degree, like an undergrad. So you have to have a very strong all-round record of everything you do. Basically, what people do is they make a portfolio of what you've done since you were 16. So then that adds up to it, and then you will be considered for a graduate program.
Okay, so I'm gonna get Anne on Skype. Hello.
Hi, Anne. So I've got you on Skype.
Okay.
And I'm on part 2 after getting acceptance, the slide.
Okay.
So you can start your presentation. If you ever want me to change the slide, just say next.
For part 2, after getting accepted to a university, so the first thing you should be concerned about a valid passport. Of course, you should have a valid passport, and hopefully, if you can have the passport valid for over a year, that would be great. Then you have to apply for your study permit in order to study in Canada. And when you apply for your study permit, you will get 2 types of visa. One is study permit visa that allows you to study in Canada. And in order for you to come to Canada, you need a temporary visa. Anyway, the visa office knows all about that, and they will do it accordingly. In order for you to get your study permit, you need the financial document. We'll be talking about that later. A health report and police clearance. And these might take a couple of weeks or months, so you should be getting all the information ready to apply. So get accommodation. So once you get your acceptance letter and all the visa requirements done, you should be looking at accommodation, and I would recommend to stay on campus the first year, just because on campus you will get to know people, you will get to know, especially you're coming from far away, you will be homesick and all that, so it's nice to have somebody with you, like the roommates, and as well as on campus you have like the community, you have like clubs and all that, so you will get actually hold of them and you can participate in activities like that. So it's good to stay on campus. But the thing is, you have to apply for on-campus accommodation, and it might be waitlisted, so you have to apply in advance. And off-campus it's cheaper to live off-campus, especially where I live in St. John's, Canada. So it all depends on individuals, what you want, what you prefer. And then, of course, you buy your ticket. And one thing when you buy the ticket, you have to be sure if you're holding a Sri Lankan passport, some countries may not allow you to pass unless you have a transit visa. For example, Germany, you need a transit visa. But if you go through Heathrow, you don't need a transit visa. You can just use the study permit and get to Canada. So working while studying, of course, you need a work permit to work in Canada. That depends on the province and the university that you go to. For example, if you study in St. John's Memorial University, you don't need a study permit to work on campus. However, if you work in Toronto, probably you need an off-campus work permit to work on campus. And in order for you to get a work permit, you need to have a GPA of 2.0, which is 50 to 55% average. You should be a full-time student. Full-time student is at least 3 courses and maximum of 5. So 3 to 5 courses per semester. And you have to stay in Canada for about 6 months. So after arrival of 6 months, you can apply for your work permit. And it usually costs about $150. You will get it in 2 to 3 weeks, and you can apply online. So it's an easy process. It's not anything hard. The main thing is you have to maintain your average. If you go below 2.0 average, you have to surrender your work permit. And also, you can work while you're studying. If you work while you're studying during academic year, which is September to December and January to April, those are the academic years, semesters. And if you work during those semesters, you can only work 20 hours per week. But if you work during summer, which is probably April to August, you can work full time, that is 40 hours. They all depends on which university you go to and which province you go to. The other thing is internships. Work permits, anybody can apply for work permits, that's good. But internships differ. They depend on your program. And for example, science, business, and engineering, they usually have co-op programs which are also internships. So you do your academic year, you do your courses, and the next semester you might have to go out to the market or to the field and work. For engineering students, they go find engineering firm and work there for 4 months. So what students do, they use that money to pay the next semester's tuition fee, stuff like that. And like I said, it depends on your program. And usually internships are arranged by the faculty that you're in. Not all internships are paid. For example, education and social work, especially if you go like social worker, you don't get paid. And you have to have, especially in science fields, you have to have very high GPA, which is like 3.5 or 3.0 to 4.0. That's about 75 average. Yeah, about 75 average you should have in order for you to get a good internship. Talking about science and internships, they just look at your grades. They don't care about what volunteer work you have done or anything. They actually go according to your grades. If you have better grades, you will get a good internship, or you will get an internship. And they might ask for some reference. On-campus and off-campus activities. First few months can be lonely. Like I said, you might feel homesick and all that, so it's better if you can stay on campus, but it's still expensive. So like I said, it's depends on the individual. Canadian communities is very inviting and friendly. People are very nice here. You can get help from anybody. Everybody's so good. And there are many extracurricular activities. For example, in Toronto, there are over 1,000 clubs and activities. So students can, it's advisable for students to actually engage in these activities. Therefore, you will find more friends and get to know people and all that stuff. Every university has an international center. So if you have any problems when you get here, for example, our university has an international office. When you get here, you can speak to them and they will give you orientation, and they will tell you what you should do, what you shouldn't do, where to get your student card, and how to pay your school fees, and what clubs are available for you, like all the requirements, all the facilities that are available on campus. They will be guiding you. And they will also connect you to multicultural events and all that. And on or off campus, there may be Sri Lankan associations. I know in Toronto they have Sri Lankan associations, a couple of association clubs, so which is a great thing. And here in St. John's, we have only one association, and we have about 35 members. Weather, that's a big thing in Canada. Winter is November to March. It's about 6 months. And where we live in St. John's, it snows from November till about end of April, and the snow is up to the height of your knee. So as much it sounds scary, it's actually fun. If you're like outdoor person, if you like winter activities, well, I know in Sri Lanka we don't really have any activities, so we don't know what it's like, but it's actually interesting if you're into like outdoor activities. It's good. It's a good place to be. Spring is April to June, where it's so nice, and summer June to August, and going back to fall, autumn, mid-August to November. So cost of living in Toronto is about $500 to $1,500. So if you want to live off campus and if you want to get a house, usually you don't get your own house. You usually get it with some people, then you can be roommates and whatever. So it varies from $375 to $800 plus POU. POU means pay your own utilities, which means everything besides your rent. So rent is $375, let's say $375. So heat and electricity, internet, and everything else you have to pay extra. Whereas in Toronto, it's the same thing, but it varies from $500 to $1,500. Food is cheap in mainland, in Toronto, than in where I am, in St. John's, but still you can find good food. We have a couple of Indian foods here. If you stay in Toronto or like mainland, you can get anything you want. You can eat Sri Lankan food, that's no problem. But if you go like to rural places, it might be a bit challenging, but food is cheap here. What is important to you when you decide to go abroad to study? First, if you come to Canada, for example, you should see what matters the most. What's your deciding factor? Is it the cost? Is it the size of the university? Is it community? Talking about St. John's, it's very laid back, calm and relaxed place compared to Toronto. So if you like a city life, maybe St. John's is not the best. If you want a busy city life, Toronto or some bigger cities would be the best. But that depends on what you want to go to. If you want to go to university, if you want to save some money, then you should look at that instead of the city or the environment or the community. So it all depends on the individual. Like I said, decide the province. Yeah, because different provinces and different universities offer different things. I'm sure you know that. So I think the first thing should be what program you want to do, and then everything follows. Yeah, like I said, you want to start a technical college or transfer to a university. Later, you can have this choice of doing that as well. You don't actually have to come to a university. You can go to a college, finish college, then get into university. That's probably for you if that's what you're looking at. How do you decide? It's the same thing I said. Look at the pros and cons of each university and the programs you're interested in. Prioritize what is important to you. Request free brochures through the university websites. You can do that. Mail lists for new students. They will send you the information about different programs. So if you're interested in university, you can email them, get the information. Before you decide, compare the universities that you want to go to, because this is one of the things we see with students. They just come because for some reason, then when they come here, they realize, oh, this is not what I wanted to do, and I don't like this place, it's so boring, and this is blah, blah, blah. So before you come, just compare what you want to do, and probably there are better things better universities out there, so make sure you compare them and see what suits best for you. Finally, what you can do through is the college. Students who are studying in Canada post questions on SL to College forum, review the results section on the website for articles on student experience, get matched with a student in Canada for a long period through a mentor program. This is like students can get matched up with students who are already studying in Canada to get to ask questions about everything that we talk about, like how to get visa, do you like living in Canada, or what are the universities is like. Like if you want more information, for example, if somebody is trying to come to UF, you can get somebody in UFT, you can speak to the registrar's office and try to get somebody from Sri Lanka. Then you can get hold of the Sri Lankan person and you can have conversations and get information about UFT, University of Toronto. And also you can join SL to College on Facebook and Twitter for updates. And for any other questions, you can email us at info@sltocollege.org. So that's a look at Canada, and all and luck.
Thank you very much, Anne. That's all we have for you for today. Please do join the SL to College Forum for Canada and the US, and if you want more information on the US or the Questions Forum or even the mentoring program, please join Sri Lankans Applying to the United States on Facebook. This conference will be on TV if you want to rewatch it or ask your friends to rewatch it. So thank you very, very much for coming along today. I've got to thank a lot of people, all the volunteers outside from SL to College, Charita for coming along, our sponsors, TNL and John Keel's Holdings, and my mentors, and especially Amila for planning this conference. Thank you very much.